We take a look on reports, trends, news, and for me personally, the best thing is to go to events, network, meet with people, meet with investors, and discuss your idea. Be quite open.
In terms of trends, I think the biggest trend right now is the sort of digital to physical is the meta trend, or using software to basically control physical things in the world, whether it's things like sensor networks, Internet of Things, wearables, driving machines, robots, etc. Things like that. I think that's going to be the next sort of wave of IT commercialization. I actually was just reading a Gartner report that said, that this wave of software controlling things is going to make the last wave of IT look small, and I really agree with that. There's just so much opportunity in the world to make things more efficient, to et cetera, by using software to control machines. That's in terms of actually our fund, we don't look at that space at all. We don't really follow trends. We've developed a specific niche in enterprise, which we stay disciplined in terms of following that through the trends. About when we started doing it, everyone was doing consumer, no one was doing enterprise. We were doing enterprise. Right now, everyone is doing enterprise, and we'll also be doing we're also doing enterprise. And when people have long abandoned it, we'll still be doing enterprise. So that's us.
From a macro perspective, I think 2012, probably mid-2012 was sort of the time frame where venture investing seemed to have shifted, early stage venture investing seemed to have shifted from being consumer dominated to at least a 50-50 split between enterprise and consumer. And I think sort of enterprise has had some steam for the last year to year and a half. It does seem like at least from an investment perspective, consumers starting to come back and be a majority from a number of investments done or dollar perspective. So that's the macro trend. Like I said, pretty much all of us here do, most of us here do enterprise investing anyways. From our perspective, I think the type of investments we've been generally looking for have been vertical focused SaaS applications. So for example, if you're developing a play in financial services where you're helping banks with something, and in general offered through the cloud, maybe on premise, depending on the entity you're dealing with. So financial services, healthcare, technology plays around other big verticals, energy, for example. Those are some of the applications we've been looking at. We also have been looking at infrastructure plays around mobile, whether it's within the enterprise or the data center or sort of wireless connectivity, last mile stuff. So those have been two big things for us. As far as the way we look at investments for the fund, we have broad themes where we, when the fund gets set up, we expect to make, let's say, 20 investments for X dollars, with those investments being split across 5 different arenas. But eventually when we start sourcing investments, all of that sort of goes out the window. And when we find something that's really interesting that can convince all the partners that it makes sense, then we will pull the trigger and make the investment. So as of right now, I think the buckets, like I said, for us are mobility, enterprise infrastructure, and enterprise SaaS. I would say we have made some investments in the Internet of Things, but we are not making those anymore because we've got a few in the portfolio.
In terms of following trends, I think investors typically will need social verification. That is why investors tend to invest in trends that other investors are investing in. So if you have a startup that is in one of these trendy areas, what it means for you is that you'll have an easier time raising your initial money. You'll have easier time raising your follow-on rounds as well. But it does not deviate from, it is raising money and being in the area that is a trend is different from having real paying customers. So I encourage everyone to think about your product, how can you package it, and whether is it really a product that people will pay to use, rather than to go with the trends right now. And because there are trends now that could be a bubble and could fail, because there could be more and more VCs funding into certain trends, only to realize that no one will pay for it, and the investors will all move away to somebody else. And now I'm not just talking about VCs, this could be angel investors on angel list. And this could be corporate strategics as well, that suddenly move from one trend to the other. So leaving you with a product or that nobody wants to buy. So I urge everyone to follow what you think is a pain point and find a solution to solve it. And the trend is good to be in, but if you could shape your product to be one that people will pay for, it's going to be more beneficial to you in the long run.
There's a lot of buzz about crowdfunding. A lot of things changed on September 23rd. In fact, we got a pitch event 2 days right after the 23rd, and council advised us not to have people in a public setting ask for a particular dollar amount, because there are a lot of issues with regard to, you know, who's qualified to listen to these pitches, who's a verified investor. I haven't asked anyone on the panel for the tax returns. So it's been almost 3 months, almost a quarter. So how's crowdfunding changed the investment landscape, and is it good or bad or ugly? Your thoughts?
I'm really, for consumer startups, I'm really a big fan of Kickstarter and things like that. I think it's basically just getting pre-order. It's not necessarily crowdfunding because they don't take any equity, but they get, it's basically just doing pre-orders. And that's fantastic because in terms of, you're always looking for the more than money from your venture advisor or what have you. And something like Kickstarter, you're getting that customer validation up front before you go out and spend the money. So I think that kind of thing is awesome. In terms of like a whole bunch of people taking equity stakes in a startup, I can't understand why any startup would want to do that, because if you kind of are asking, what are those people giving you besides money? And there's nothing that they're giving you in terms of the type of like validation or expertise or strategy that you need. So if I was an entrepreneur, I wouldn't take that kind of equity. If I was going to give away equity to my company, I would make sure that I was doing it from a real investor that had real value to add. But that said, it's quite exciting, and I don't think anyone really knows where it's going yet because it's so new. So I'm glad that there are a lot of people that are going to try it. I'm going to be watching.
I definitely agree with what was said so far. We have seen a few successful cases coming out from the various crowdfunding programs, platforms. For example, the Pebble Watch. For B2B play, where we're focused, honestly, it hasn't changed so much. It hasn't affected us in terms of like deal flow. For B2B in general, they need more experienced investors to coach them through the process and then building the whole business. So you would need people with connections to those enterprises and potential business clients that you're selling for. For consumer play, if, for example, actually I think it's good for some products, they get some early validations.
So I think crowdfunding in terms of pre-orders of consumer goods, and also crowdfunding in terms of equity, right? Taking a stake in equity for consumer goods I think it's a fantastic platform for startups. This is an unprecedented time where you can actually shoot a video. You don't even need a working prototype. You can shoot a video and raise 50,000, 500,000, or even into the 7 figures, and then take the money and develop, and you have ready customers. So this is an unprecedented time what Kickstarter has done for consumer products. But what it also means for me, because I'm a consumer product investor, but not these other 3 guys over here, is that I get a lot of competition. I get it does have an impact on the deal flow, right? Because there are deals that these startup owners can choose now to raise funding from everyone else, if they do not care who they raise money from. So there is a possibility that some VCs who are in the consumer product space gets hurt in their deal flow, especially in the A round. There is talks about how right now AngelList is hurting the seed rounds of consumer internet investors, and the syndicates of AngelList will hit the A round as well. And that could be why we are seeing some of the trends right now that some VCs, especially the large ones, are putting aside a small fund to invest into incubators, to invest into some early stage VCs to do a fund-of-fund arrangement so as to get the deal flow. So that is showing that they want the deals. There's a concern that those deals do not get to them. But it also means that if you want to build your platform, your startups as a platform to last beyond your seed round or your A round, think about who you want to bring to the table. The first initial people that you bring, be your advisor or your co-founder or your first VC, even at the seed round, is going to be part of your team. People, when you talk about team, we don't just look at you and your CTO, right? We look at everyone in your team, your advisor and your first VC. These are the people who you're going to work with day and night. These are the people that you're going to turn to when you have trouble launching a product, or when you're going to do a follow-on investment, when you need a new future round. These are the first people you turn to. So you have to find someone who you actually like to work with and can be there to put in the first money in your next round. And it is that important right now that even seed rounds and A rounds, you need good VC investment to build that traction and trust for other funding to come in. Even on AngelList right now, you can see that you have to put in, right? You have to see that there's a good VC in the round before other retail investors will invest. And another thing to touch on is the legality aspect of raising from retail investors. Right now, the requirement is that people just have to tick a few checkboxes on AngelList, right? If you guys go through it, you'll know that lots of people, anyone can just put a checkbox to say how much asset you have or how much tax you're filing, either singly or jointly, and there you can become an accredited investor. But the process right now is not mature enough, and what worries me is that there could be a time where an investor